CoStar Credit LLC here. And this video is about FICO score components. I felt I needed to shoot this video because this is kind of like the number one question, not so much components, but just kind of like what's my score, or people are just wondering why their score is, where it is. So first and foremost, the term FICO score is kind of is often incorrectly used to describe credit scores in general because there are numerous scores. That'll be a different video about that. But the whole point that I'm shooting this video is for the factors are very consistent from one to the other. So everybody thinks every score they look at is their FICO score, but unless it actually says this is your FICO score, then it's probably not. So from now on, when you think about your credit score, think about the components to improve the credit history, and all your scores will pretty much improve. So I say focus on the report, focus on the actual data, and don't focus so much on the number. It'll go up automatically. So let's go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, I want to talk about the FICO score components overall. This is what makes up your FICO score, FYI. Whoops, sorry about that. Payment history makes up 35% of your score. You'll understand all of this as we go on further, but I just want to give you a breakdown. Utilization ratio is 30%. Age of credit, 15%. Diversity, 10%. New credit, 10%. Now, I know some of these things you may be like, well, what does that mean? I'm about to get into each and every one of them. Nobody knows the actual formula that FICO uses, but we know these components. So, like a cake, you kind of need all the ingredients to have a good one. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get into it. First and foremost, payment history. That is 35% of your score, like I said earlier. And the one question basically is this: has every account been paid on time? And if you've paid late, how late? This is like the most focused on, but again, like cake, it's only one ingredient of the entire cake. So when people say, but my score is, this or that, but I pay my bills on time, that's kind of a myth. It's not just about paying the bills on time. So that'd be like, somebody saying, you don't like the cake? Why is the cake, I use the best flour. It's more to it than that. So yeah, back to this. If you've paid late, how late? 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. Those all make a difference. The more late you are, of course, the worse it is. So this is what I run into the most right here. Are any accounts in collections? Okay. To them, that's a red flag if any accounts are in collections. However, there's no need to feel bad about it. That's what I'm here for. Okay. So next up, are these collections paid or unpaid? Now, I'm going to tell you something. I tell people don't pay any collections until they talk to me first, because I've noticed a lot of people, I've been hearing people saying, but I paid this. Should I pay this? And they think that's going to make their score go up. Now, another thing is it depends on, like, if somebody's looking at let's say you're in a special program and they say, well, in order to get qualified for this loan, we need to see that all of your collections are paid. Now, that's not going to make your score go up, but if you're trying to get approved for something and they actually physically print up your credit report, that's where this may come into play, because they will see, oh, well, at least they paid it, but your score more than likely will still be low. So it's not just about paying collections and whatnot. So I get that a lot. Like, people are saying, but I paid that, so why is my score still low? The way they look at it is, and this is not me making a judgment call on anybody, they look at it as, if you were worthy or credit worthy or whatever, then it wouldn't have gotten to the point of collections, because it had to go 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and then they had to charge it off and then, sell it to a collection agent. So they're people that are extending credit are like, we get it, you paid it, but do they hold it against you? Absolutely. So that right there should answer a lot of questions. So this is all a part of payment history. If, again, we already said collections, any charge-offs, debt settlements, bankruptcies, foreclosure, lawsuits, wage attachments, liens, and judgments, that is all part of your payment history, which makes up 35%. So I've seen credit reports that have one of these things. I've seen credit reports that have all of these things. So that right there will tell you 35% of your score is taking a hit just from having these things on there. Okay. So, yeah, this is the question I get. What if I have no credit? So, you know how they say no credit is bad credit? I mean, there's some truth, and, it's not completely accurate, but this is what they mean, because if you have no credit, you have no payment history. So 35% of your score, there's just nothing being considered there. So it's probably going to be low just off of you not having any credit. All right, so there you go. 35% payment history. Next up, utilization ratio. That's just a fancy way of saying how much do you owe versus how much available credit. Okay, so how much of your available credit are you using? If you have a $3,000 credit card, are you using 2,000? Is the balance 2,982 or is it $300? So clearly, less is better. I like to tell people, whatever your credit card is divided by 3, don't go past that. You can go past it, just don't let the statement end, like the statement period end when it's past that, because that's when they report it to the bureau. So if you're about to make a big purchase, fine, it's going to max out the credit card, boom. But I also know I have money coming in 2 days. You can do that and then just pay them in 2 days. It'll never really, get reported to the credit bureaus. But yeah, this right here, this alone, you'd be surprised, and I'm going to shoot another video to show you the effect of just paying down the credit cards. I know it sounds easier said than done, but it's like one of the easiest and most, and the biggest factor when it comes to your credit score. I'm going to show you all in another video. So I also tell people, don't ever have a zero balance. Owing a little is better, even if it's just $1. You have a $10,000 credit card, 5,000, 1,000. Just let it be $1. Don't listen to these people on TV or magazines or whatever telling you cut up your credit cards and all that stuff, and just don't have a zero balance. Okay, I've experimented with my own, and it's just, I don't know why zero makes the score go down. So of course, like I just said, never have credit cards maxed out. Excuse me. And again, that makes up 30% of your score. All right, the best is below. Keep that below 10%. That's just my personal opinion. And credit limit increases help out with this. Okay, so if you owe $500 on your $1,000 credit card, you're using 50%. You get a credit limit increase to 2,000. You still have that 500. Now that utilization ratio goes down just because more credit is available, even though you haven't paid anything down. So that's another thing. All right, so next up, age of credit. I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. It's 15% of your score, aka length of credit history. How long have you had credit? Yeah, how long have you been using credit? Also, what is the average age of your accounts? So they total them all up. Oh, he's had this account for 2 years, or she's had this account for 8 years, and divide it and see, oh, the average age of accounts, and see, of course, the older, the better. So, they also ask, so what's your oldest account? And this is mostly out of your control because you can't help it if you're, 20 years old and you got a credit card when you're 18. But it's not completely out of your control. And that's something else. But this right now, we're just talking about the components of the score. I'm not going to get into things you can do to change it and all that stuff. That's later. But I will tell you this once again: stop listening to those people on TV and I'm not going to call any names or whatnot, but do not cancel and close your accounts, because if this is 15% of your score and you start closing things, I mean, you're going to affect that, even though it's 15%. Okay. So age of credit, 15%. So sorry. Next, diversity. This is 10%. This is kind of like, just well, here we'll go ahead and get into it. Mix of credit, or credit mix, or types of credit. Credit cards, store cards, loan, auto loan, home loan. They like to see a mix. I don't. I mean, it's only 10% of your score, but it's still a factor nonetheless. If they see you got just 5 credit cards and that's it, that's all you have on your credit report. That affects it a little bit. Not much, but it does affect it. So if they see you got a good mix, I got a credit card or two. I got a. I'm paying off my car loan. I have a mortgage. Whatever. It does. Play a role in it. So also, how many total accounts do you have? And then they look at it. Again, we don't know the actual formula they use. These are just the components of the score. And this is only 10%. Alrighty. Yes, there it is. All right. So last but not least, new credit, aka inquiries. How many new accounts do you have? It's not just about how many new accounts that you have, but like, how many accounts did you apply for in a specific amount of in a certain amount of time? Okay, so when is the last time a new account was opened? Time versus consumption, and what that means is what I just said. It's a difference between applying for 3 things in 2 years and applying for 3 things in a month. Because now the reason that affects it is because they look at it as, why is this person trying to get so much credit in a short amount of time? So they may they may think that, oh, this person must know that they're about to hit hard times, so they're trying to get credit. And that's how they look at it. So again, this is like the sprinkles on the cake, but yeah, what I like to also compare this to is like drinks. There's a difference between, hey, I drink a beer every week or something like that. Then there's a difference between, let's say you drank 10 beers, okay, but that was spaced out over a month. You drank 10 beers in a month. That's different. That's different than somebody drinking 10 beers in a night. So it's the same amount of beers, but clearly it's going to affect you differently. That's the best thing I could think of. And I threw this in here. Nobody knows exactly how much each inquiry is worth. I've heard these credit people and, quote unquote experts saying, yeah, these inquiries are worth 2 points each, or nobody knows unless you actually work for FICO, and I'm sure they make you sign some stuff. Again, this is 10% of your score. So yeah, we're just going to wrap this up. The FICO score components: payment history, utilization ratio, age of credit, diversity, and new credit. This should answer so many questions that people have. Well, why is my credit score this, or why is it that? These are all the factors. You can see how you stack up. I got other videos coming to show you where to go to look at these things, and they give you suggestions of what you can do and everything like that. However, I have some final words. Okay, the FICO score is only one part of what lenders consider. Now, we'll say this: of course, the higher your score, the more lenient they'll be. They probably won't want to see all your pay stubs and this and that. But a lot of times they're like, okay, that's just one thing. You need to have a score this and above. You need to have worked at a job this length or above, and you need to make this much or above in income. So I'm just wanting to throw that out there. This is, people think, well, if I fix my credit, that's all I need. I can get anything I want. It's partially true, but not necessarily true. So the things that the FICO score does not factor in: income, length of employment, child support, alimony. It's not, and my last point, it's not only about payment history, because I keep hearing a lot of people telling me, but I pay my bills on time. I pay my bills on time. When you see all those other factors that we talked about, you'll see why your score may not be as high as it is, or as it should be, or